consultant with Atma. Maybe we'll spend a couple of minutes talking about Atma, what do we do, and why we're here today about the webinar. So Atma is an organization that supports education NGOs to become bigger, better, stronger by building capacity and creating systems and processes to solve common organizational development issues that the organizations might be facing. We started our journey in 2007. And since then, we've been able to support a little over 80 organizations in this journey of excellence. At Atma, I think very early on, we understood the importance of shared knowledge, especially in a sector like ours, where we realized that resources in general are quite limited, they're quite scarce. And therefore, the genesis of this webinar series is really is the result of that realization. So the webinar series started as a space to share our perspective, our learnings, get experts from the industry to talk about ideas, to talk about issues, dilemmas that I think all of us who are a part of the sector perhaps are facing it in some form or fashion. The Atma webinar is a curated platform where speakers share their practical experiences, knowledge, learnings that could benefit other organizations. And therefore the topics you will, for those of you who've attended this in the past, you would have noticed the topics can vary from human resource management to program management, development, communications, policies, finance, you name it, and we do talk about it. So today's webinar is an interesting one. It's slightly different from the format that we followed in the recent past, and you'll realize why and how. Today, we're going to be talking about a fundraising strategy that's focused on matching contributions. In 2019, in collaboration with A.T.E. Chandra Foundation, Sattva released a report on matching contributions in India to share insights on best practices from match givers, influencers, SPOs who've participated in matching campaigns. So as part of today's webinar, Sattva is actually going to talk about that report. We will hear about some of these best practices. And very interestingly, we'll also hear firsthand from some of the forerunners of such campaigns. One of our speakers today, who's actually going to sort of take us through the entire webinar, is Ambika Jagran. Ambika is a senior engagement manager at Sattva. She's a part of the impact measurement advisory vertical at Sattva. Little bit about her, very interesting. Her experience on projects spans from creating program design to revisiting organizational strategy for both large and small NGOs across sectors such as education, livelihood, and health. Prior to Sattva, Ambika spent a significant time at Dasra, building capacity of NGO leaders and measuring its translative impact on the performance of the organization. I think that's exceedingly interesting. Ambika has a cumulative experience of 11 years and moved to the development sector after spending over 5 years in the business research and advisory for global funds space. She has a BTech in IT, MBA in finance. She also holds a certificate in social impact strategy from the Center of Social Impact Strategy, University of Pennsylvania. Welcome, Ambika. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Devana, and very good afternoon to everybody here today. Really excited to be talking a little more about the report that we had published in 2019. Luckily, I was a part of, that was pretty much my first research work at Sattva. So the genesis of the report, I'll talk about it a little bit, and then I'll also introduce the panelists today. The genesis of the report was really from the A.T.E. Chandra Foundation, and they wanted to understand how matching contribution and matching campaigns can sort of accelerate giving, and also in some way or form benefit the nonprofit organizations and the funds that they have been trying to raise. So based on that format, we sort of put together some research design and questions and a set of people that we'd be speaking with. We tried to look at it from 3 sets of donors. We looked at foundations, HNIs and family foundations that look at giving. We looked at corporates who are also running a lot of matching campaigns. And we also looked at nonprofit organizations and retail users who can be a part of these campaigns. So that was really how we designed the research report. While doing the study, we also realized that there were a lot of actionables that we could put together in the form of a toolkit that we then created for the nonprofit organizations, which focuses on gives you a step-by-step view of how you can design these campaigns and how you can also run these campaigns on a regular basis. So that's a little bit about the report. I have a short deck which just actually talks about some of the insights that we generated, while doing the study, and I'll just very briefly go through it before we actually get into a more detailed conversation with the panelists. So just in terms of the scope of retail fundraising, it's actually the estimated market size is about 34,000 crores. Which in a year, and this was measured in 2017, which of course would have increased, goes towards religious contributions. And over the year, if you look at the Giving Tuesday report, as well as some of the funds raised by other organizations, we've realized that anything between a 10 crore to a 40 crore is usually what people end up giving. And the triggers usually are anything to do with the community, with the urgency, or with any sort of a crisis in which the campaigns are running. So these are some of the triggers for online retail givers. Also, with the increase in digital penetration, we've sort of found that a lot of the giving over the year has gone up. So, Paytm became very mainstream for giving. A lot of the Keto platform sort of moved to WhatsApp. So you could just, log in from there and give. Again, with the access to Google Pay and all, it became very easy for people to give. So they didn't really have to log in, put their credit card number or link it to a bank account and so on. So it was just on the mobile. That sort of has also accelerated people to give. And actually COVID, we saw a lot of the organizations running matching campaigns. So Amazon, Facebook, Genpact, a lot of corporates, as well as, the foundations like PepsiCo ran a lot of matching campaigns during this time. What we have also noticed through the study is that the commitment to match that is put forward by a funder actually raises the capacity and multiplies the funds that are raised by anything between 2 to 5 times. And it actually encourages the people to give more. So the moment you see there's a one-on-one match, they feel that, okay, this money will then be clubbed with another pool of funds and then actually will be benefiting the people that it is meant to go to. And so across foundations, corporates, and platforms that have run successful matching campaigns and have agreed to match those fundings, we have also noticed that the total amount has raised anywhere between 2 times to 5 times. And apart from just the money, we've also noticed a few intangible, aspects that it has touched upon, where people have acquired new donors, or they have acquired volunteers, or they've been able to reactivate some of their old donor base, or looked at it from a lens of interacting with the communities or the retail givers that have been giving to their organization a little more strongly. So sending out newsletters, being able to communicate with them a lot more has been some of the findings. So these were just the 3 ones that we picked up. We'll actually be hearing a lot more from Simranpreet, who's the founder for Sanjay Sikhiya, and that's one of our campaigns that we've looked at out here. This actually talks about how new donors were acquired, how inactive donors were activated, and how the funds were actually multiplied when the people saw that there is a commitment to match. So this actually is a diagram that we kind of drew along with the A.T.E. Chandra Foundation, which talks a little more about how existing and new donors can use a platform which has a match funder, and then the NGO becomes the match recipient. So it just visually tells you how the entire process moves, and where the employees or the givers are looking at one time giving, and which is actually converting into a multiplied time giving for the NGO. And how it benefits the funders is that they're able to raise more funds, they're able to expand their retail base and exchange, and interact with more donors. And for donors, it is also a way of looking at financial sustainability for their NGOs. So it's not just the donors who are then giving the funds, it's also looking at building out that retail base that can continue to support the NGOs and also enhances their fundraising capacities. In terms of employee giving, it's also as an incentive that corporates have found which is significant. When a corporate is matching the fund, the employees tend to give more. As a part of the toolkit, we actually put together 5 main, key aspects that one should look at, especially from a non-profit lens, when you are designing a campaign, which is, of course, looking at a match funder and identifying who that person should be, who is, putting this, who is doing the matching contribution for you, understanding what the goal of the campaign would be. So what are you trying to achieve by running the campaign? So are you looking at unrestricted funds? Are you looking at a specific cause? Are you looking at, using this as a year-on-year way of engaging with new donors? Who your target audience would be? So are you, so do you want to make it open to all? Do you want to make it open only to a specific community? If you're working with a corporate, would it only be eligible for their employees? And so on. So understanding your target audience, which is the platform that you want to work with. So, Give India, Keto, Milap, everybody now runs a lot of the matching campaigns. They also support in analytics. They also support in understanding what is increasing, what is reducing, what are the days in which you have more people giving? Is it closer to a festival that, accelerates giving, and so on? And then communication, which is understanding exactly when you want to run this campaign. So these are the 5, key aspects that we found were sort of, when we spoke with a lot of NGOs, they said that these 5 things worked very well for them. I will just pause here and actually like to now bring in our 2 panelists who are a part of the sector, have been very closely involved in retail giving. So I'd like to invite Pushpa, who's the founder for GuideStar India. And she has with her over 18 years of experience of scaling innovative organizations, including running Give India as its CEO. And Pushpa has actually been quite a forerunner in the retail giving space. As the CEO of Give India, she's played a significant role in scaling up of NGOs on its platform. And she's also demystified what online philanthropy actually means to Indian NGOs. So she's made a lot of effective ways of, and platforms for NGOs to interact with donors. And I think streamlining NGO due diligence in India and self-reporting of data and compliance has been something that Pushpa has been solely responsible for. So great to have you on board, Pushpa. And I think I'd also introduce Simranpreet Singh Oberoi, who's the co-founder for Sanjay Sikhiya, which is an organization that works in the public education system for Punjab. And they run 2 leadership programs, which is the Punjab Youth Leaders Program, which is running in 3 districts of Punjab, as well as the Punjab Education Collective, which works with the state education department to drive systemic reforms. And in the past, Simranpreet has worked as a part of Genpac's CSR efforts and has also led a residential school. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And as a, just to start with, I think Pushpa, if I can start with you, since you've been associated with matching and retail fundraising probably since its inception. In your experience, how has the scenario evolved over the last few years?
Thank you, Devina, and thank you, Ambika, for that lofty introduction. I can see so many expert participants from the sector, and so I'm just going to make an effort to share what I have observed what I have learned and what I could in my own capacity instigate in this sector, if I can use that term. So 2001 is the year I came into Give India and to the sector in the country. And so pretty much saw the evolution of retail fundraising when the word retail was pretty much out of sync, in the civil society space to talk about. I came from retail financial services, and we would not use the word retail and, try to focus as much as saying, let's engage individuals in giving. So at that point in time, we had identified three C's as very critical to retail fundraising, those being convenience, the tools to give, choice, people to find, a range of organizations or causes or projects that they cared about so they could pick and choose. And the third piece was confidence, to feel sure about what you're contributing to and that it actually gets utilized and, you can feel safe that your money was put to the purpose that was, upfront told to you. And over time, so, when we talk about matching, we're talking about retail fundraising. So to focus only on matching would be really hard. So Ambika and Devina, I'll have to kind of keep talking a bit about how retail fundraising has evolved and, bring matching in that context. So if I take these three C's, convenience, choice, and confidence, I would say convenience has leapfrogged since, in the last 2 decades. Whether it's 2001 was the big Gujarat earthquake in India, and net banking, ICICI Bank had just launched, so there weren't enough people giving online. There was a lot of fear about safety of online transactions or how to give. The banking system hadn't evolved, right? And leapfrog to 2021 when India is really leading online giving in the sense of the payment space, the UPI interface that we have, which other countries are looking at. So number of people online, the tools to give online, the points of giving, it's all kind of overwhelming now. So I don't think we can complain about the convenience part of online giving or retail giving. The choice bit has evolved, but not exactly to what one would desire, because even to date, there are donors who write to us. And when I run GuideStar, it's more about making information available to help philanthropy. There's still a lot of, if I can say, a donor preference set that still has minimal or no choice. Like, there was the other day a retail donor who said, in Kakinada, I want to support an NGO that is working for the physically disabled girls, right? It's a very narrow specification. That donor has a very specific motivation, and it took me a while we got a list of organizations but to get one NGO that has gone through a certain compliance process to be even responding to it was difficult. And this organization was on Give India, but to get them to respond to that donor specific request. So on the choice side, what has also happened is a lot of attention has also moved away from NGOs to, as we all know, the medical urgency, giving to medical causes or to giving to other causes, because like your report also says, the sense of urgency or the kind of communication that's required has not come forward from the NGO sector. So the earlier Sattva report on giving, as well as this report on matching, I would say still shows that there's a lot of scope, if we can look at it as an opportunity for nonprofits to still come and embrace retail fundraising and to be present and to reach donors who are looking for them in many, many preference areas where there's hardly any organization. If I can very quickly touch on the confidence bit, I think we've hardly moved the needle. Report after report on giving says that donors, and whether it's the Bain report, or the CAF giving report, even the reports brought out by Sattva, I think confidence in nonprofits is still not there. And, we run a certification program. There are a few others. So even if nonprofits have got themselves certified, it's usually to fulfill the needs of a institutional donor. They're not using that information to present their work to the retail donor. So confidence piece is still, I think, needs to get addressed. There are two more C's that I would add now: compliance and communications. So on the communications front, communications has become easy in terms of the avenues to communicate, a lot of free channels, the digital marketing space, but the right communication is not reaching people who are looking for NGOs. The compliance piece is just getting difficult by the day. So how has it evolved? Matching started way back in 2001 when I was in Give India. I still remember there were a lot of institutional givers who said, I want to match, right? And at that point, the retail donors were not even aware that somebody was matching. The two were very separate. Then has come an era of, I think from 2005 onwards, when the marathon started, and some of the platforms like Give India started putting out matching. But in the West, Global Giving and others, the retail platforms were giving matching even then. But I think some of the disasters brought matching to the country. But even then, what was happening was the platforms were matching, and the source of matching was typically leftover money. If I can bring this out, some of you would not be aware of this. Literally, the platforms that were running had some unallocated monies that donors, whether payroll givers or others, had put into their donation deposit accounts that weren't being utilized, that weren't being assigned, and the donors had moved on. It was almost like unclaimed dividend. So the platforms very smartly, and credit to them that they did not decide to give it away, but they said, let us allow the retail donors to decide where that would go. So again, here there was if I can see, a divorce or a separation of the matching contributor. They did not know what their funds were being used for. The NGOs were also not actively engaged in deciding that there is a matching and how they only knew campaigns set up by platforms. To fast forwarding, and let me turn it back to you. I would say we're seeing very interesting things, and hopefully Simranpreet will highlight this. I'm very happy to see at least a few NGOs now have moved away just from participating in matching contests, challenges, and campaigns put out by platforms to running their own campaigns, raising their own matching pools, and kind of making it very interesting for some of their existing retail donors to become champions and kind of start saying that I endorse this and I'm going to match, or going out to their institutional funders and getting them to kind of express confidence, saying I'm going to match this campaign. It has become a great tool to sustainability. So a lot of things, hopefully when you put other questions to me, I can unpack this. But this has been the evolution from the person matching not knowing initially where this money is going, to literally the NGO now kind of designing their matching program. So still platforms decide to a great extent the matching campaign, but I think the participants today can hope to be driving their own matching campaigns by the end of this session. Thank you. Over to you.
Thanks so much for all that information, Pushpa. That was super helpful to know. Simranpreet, I'd like to bring you in here, and if you could talk a little bit about, when did you hear about matching, and what was the intent that you had when you ran the first matching campaign for Sanjay Sikh? And I assume this was about 2 years or 1 year back. If we can hear from you on that.
Yeah, thank you, Ambika, and it was great to hear from you, Pushpa, on how it evolved from platform starting. So it interestingly, Ambika, in 2019, like it was the year which was the 550th birthday of Guru Nanak, right? And because we are so rooted in Punjab, and all our work is here, and and Nanak as a figure like revered by all religions here equally. So it was it really started with us thinking it's a great occasion to do something, right? And as we are and we keep talking about Punjab's transformation, and we working towards the future of Punjab and all of that. So and we had announced that we are doing this campaign without knowing that we'll actually be able to match it as well. Okay, so so it really started with us announcing it, that we are here we are, bunch of young people working in Punjab, and it's 550th birthday, let's celebrate, why don't you come and support? And we just put it out across all platforms. And then one of our existing supporters also said, okay, anyone who contributes today, we'll be matching it. So that's really it. It really started in the first time we did matching, right? And we were also not very, I would say, like, we didn't know how much we will be able to raise, right? It was more of how, it's a great day, it's an auspicious day. That's how it began. And because, like, every hour, every few hours, we were posting how much we have raised and how much we have we have done. And we were also surprised that, like, how is it happening? And we thought, okay, that's, it's Nanak's blessings on all of us, and things are happening. And by the end, like, in a day, I think we raised almost 16 lakhs on the first day, right? And we were also, how did this happen, right? And the learning was, what matching did was created a very strong sense of urgency, right? Matching is happening only today, and people outside were asking us, oh, is it IST, is it US time, what is it? And we also didn't know what to respond, but we said, okay, as long as it is I forgot the date, 12th of November in your country, we'll consider it. So that's how it really happened. And then, of course, then it ended up extending. We extended it for 3 more days, and then it became a 4-day thing. And we arrived at some, I think, 20 odd lakhs. And when people asked it, how did you do it in 4 days? How did you raise 22, 23 lakhs in 4 days? And then when we did some thinking, right, it was actually not 4 days. Like, it was efforts of 2 years, which went into it. The effort in making a community of supporters, of really looking at the work that we do, like the problem that we are trying to address, not just ours, it is everybody's, and everybody needs to play a role. And how do we keep increasing, this pool of supporters, and who may, and like, I think one of you said, having that long-term lens, right? If someone is not giving money today, it doesn't mean, like, like, it's a 30-year project anyway. So if not today, then maybe next year, maybe next to next year, it's okay, right? And I think just became very comfortable hearing no's. It's not that it was, but it was like, it's okay, somebody will give money, somebody will give time, somebody, but just having this sense that everybody needs to play a role, and it is our role to find out everybody's role, and make sure that whoever is asking us this question, how can I help you? We have a list of answers to that, right? So yeah, to your question, how was it in the first year? This is how it went. And then we were like, oh, this has to happen every year. Thankfully, Guru Nanak's birthday comes every year. and interestingly, we are sitting on 18th November, and 19th November is Guru Nanak's birthday. So we are actually launching our campaign tomorrow of this year, which will, and we have been increasing the duration of it. Started with 4 days, then 6 days. This time it's 12 days. So yeah.
Great. And Sunil, if I could ask you a follow-up question, right? So now that this is the 3rd year of you running the campaign, apart from the money that you've been raising, and you did talk about, you have a list of ways in which people can sort of support you. How do you sort of narrow down, or have you narrowed down on what are the other intangible benefits that a matching campaign is able to provide to the organization? And one donor base is of course one aspect of it, but what are some of the other things that the organizations can also look at?
Yeah. See, internally, I feel it's a great opportunity for the entire team and your existing mentors, supporters, advisors, funders to, like, play a role in this sort of festival, right? It's a giving festival, and rarely, because the operations team is so deep into doing the day-to-day things, And just if, say for a week, all you're going to do is just talk about what you do, right? And talk about it with different people, and everybody has their own network, right? Everybody comes from different, is alum of some university, and then they have their alum associations, and they have studied somewhere, and they have worked somewhere else, right? So there are these different, I think, every team member really looking at it as a way to get involved in the exercise of raising awareness and mobilizing resources, right? So I think internally I felt, and because we run a fellowship program also, like all the young fellows coming out and talking about and sharing about their work. And when we started doing it, in fact, it was a feedback given to us, uh, right? That if we like giving you some suggestion and some collateral that you are sharing, it is all very like polished and that and all of that. We want to see the raw things. We want to see the raw photographs and the raw videos and all of that. It doesn't matter. It could be just somebody shot from their phone and just sharing it straight away. So it was a feedback from some of our, new donors who then turned into volunteers, and then who started becoming champions and started helping us strategize for this. Right. So, so after first year, which was, I would say, a very random effort, we started planning for it from next year onwards, and all these people came forward to really help out. So yeah, so I think to your question, first thing, everybody in the team gets to become the storyteller and gets to become the evangelist of this cause that they really believe in, which has helped in many other ways also, right? It also gives them that ability to talk about in simple ways in which people understand, because we sometimes get too delved into our own jargons, and then we, which we keep using. So that is one. I think externally, like it became an exercise in increasing our tribe, right? That of course people, start with some contribution, but I think what happened with this effort of just creating awareness, because when we started out also, the common question from people was that why Punjab, right? Why Punjab needs any help? Punjab is so prosperous, it is so successful, it is blah blah blah, right? Why? So I think our own effort went into just stating, okay, Punjab is screwed up, right? The story that you have in your mind is 30 years old, right? And Punjab per capita, highest per capita income is a 30-year-old story. It is ranked 16th now, right? So I think just this effort of just building that awareness of the cause, and then people coming forward and asking, okay, paise to hum de denge, what else can I do? Right? How else can we get involved? And one, like, interesting story from this is, so last year we also, like, from the, this thing working out, we ended up setting up a Sanji Sikhya chapter in US as well, like an entity over there. And the people who became the board members of that were actually those who were the new donors who came forward from this first year's matching campaign, right? And we needed US citizens and all of that. So it, like, this campaign led to many people getting to know about us, right? Because it was another feedback which some of the donors, mentors kept giving us. Why don't people know about you? Why don't people know about you, right? And you're not talking about it enough. So so I think this was that. And also just in terms of our own learning of which platforms to leverage. I'm not talking about the giving platforms. I think that's has many parameters, but more in terms of the like WhatsApp and LinkedIn primarily became like the key, I would say, two main levers. Of course, we did Insta and Facebook and others also, but these two really became that. And all the existing team members and also these existing pool of supporters, right? You're talking about the intangibles, right? All of them started using these like WhatsApp and LinkedIn to raise awareness about it, starting creating their own videos about why I support Sanji Sikhya and why you need to as well, right? Just these two simple questions, and then everybody answering these. So, and they're sharing it on their respective platform. So it also resulted in some, I would say, I don't know, like what qualifies as a retail donor, but we also got several sort of big donors through this campaign, right? And I had personally never like involved my own, like, you know, parents and siblings and family members in this whole thing. Because of this, they also got involved, right? And they sharing about it got many more people. Oh, this is what you do. This is what, you know, he's doing. So, and then, you know, they also getting involved because this kuch kar rahe hain, kuch karte honge. But when we are also making that effort, right, to explain what we do in very simple ways. So I think then it automatically just gets more people to get involved. So yeah, I think externally it's become an exercise for us in like, you know, increasing our own tribe. And just maybe one last thing, with the way this is happening, one of the things we are thinking, how amazing it would be, and I don't know when this will happen, like if there are say 1,000 people, okay, 1,000 people across the globe who are like, we commit to giving certain amount every year, right? I think we probably don't have to do fundraising at all. Like if you just find those 1,000 people, right, and it's like we sorted, right, and then we can all focus on operations and do what we all love to do. So again, I think actually that's been starting to think about who are those 1,000 people who can forever commit to give every year. So yeah.
Okay, that's a very interesting thought, actually. I also like the point that you brought about with respect to storytelling and having, you know, engaging every single person within the organization, because there are very few people who then actually get to sell to the client or actually get to speak to donors. And here everybody becomes that person who's actually speaking to the donors and speaking to people in some way or form. Pushpa, I think I'd like to bring in here, you know, when I think the conversation about when it shifts to donors or different stakeholders that somehow become a part of the whole matching campaign, where you have the platform as well as any other stakeholders in terms of retail givers or matching donors. What do you think would be some of the best practices where, you know, these stakeholders can sort of encourage giving and encourage matching contribution as a way of giving? So how should nonprofits kind of communicate matching campaigns as one of the ways that they can strategically use to raise funds?
Okay, thank you. Fantastic story, Simranpreet, and I'm sure everyone in this Zoom space must have been really, you know, the way you put it, it looks really doable. But I kind of, before I jump into answering Ambika, I think I just want to relate to 2-3 things. You talked about, you know, almost 2 years of work behind it. So the story that you communicated and the emphasis you put on storytelling, or everyone becoming a fundraiser in your organization, you know, going into their networks, all of it, that's a lot of hard work. It sounds so nice when you explain it and doable, but I just want to tell everyone that it is definitely doable. But remember about the hard work that goes behind it. And I think we didn't hear much about, you know, the convenience or the which platform to choose. It was more about, you know, he talked about the platform where you'll find people, WhatsApp and LinkedIn. And so I just want to underscore the importance of communication in this entire piece. You know, he said, putting it in a simple way, what you tell, who you tell, how do they describe what you do, and, you know, what they can do, giving them a choice or options to engage beyond just giving money, and a whole bunch of things. I think there were lots of important nuggets of wisdom in that, which even if we could take down a few of them and, you know, work on them later, I think it'll help every single person. So taking on from that, how do you engage, like Ambika's direct question to me is your other stakeholders. So one thing is, you know, Simranpreet also talked about festival, doing it once a year, etc. And he talked about a festival when there isn't major crowding, right? In the sense, tomorrow or Guru Nanak Ji's, you know, this whole festival that comes once a year. Fortunately, it's not when everybody is asking for money. Fortunately, it's also a time when Giving Tuesday globally falls, 30th of November is, and it kind of kicks off the giving season. I don't know if he looked at it that way. But most nonprofits are today participating in matching campaigns, when the giving festival takes place in the country, say, particularly Danotsav or the tax saving months. So 2-3 times a year. So that's a good thing to do when you've already kind of learned retail fundraising and you've kind of become a pro at, riding on the matching wave. Which platform is giving on which day. It's almost like being in the stock markets and, looking at arbitrage opportunities, or when, a lot of that gaming incentive thing happens. And looking at that, many organizations also feel, oh my God, we tried and we didn't get anything. It's not something that we can do. So I would say to learn matching, do it, in a non-peak, when the market is not hot. Create your own important day. Like, he said, Guru Nanak Ji's, this Guru Nanak Jayanti is the right day for them. So find out your own important date and work on a matching campaign towards it. Now, how you can bring in your other stakeholders, because this date is important, or these dates are important, it needn't be one, or you can create a date. Like it was music to my ears when he said urgency because of the date. One would otherwise think urgency because, something will happen in the cause or in our area of work. But even the matching, because it's available on a date, you could create. So create a sense of urgency around it for a real reason. And I would say that whenever you are building any grant proposal, you could build a component to work on matching, because which donor would not like your sustainability plan, right? So matching as an opportunity to expand your pool of supporters, to strengthen the organization, to bring the resilience, to leverage better what the donor is giving, right? They all like to talk about the leverage thing. Most of your corporate donors, most of your donors who come from the banking, financial services, venture funding side, all of them love the leverage piece. So which means if you're giving me 1 crore, I can make it maybe 1.25, or I can even make it 1.5, or I can make it. So they all like to see the multiple. So what you could do is, if your grant proposal is for 1 crore, maybe 10 lakhs, 10% or something, you build a budget into it saying, I'd like you to specifically contribute this percentage of money as a matching, and as matching to do what? The same program, but help me to carve this out to run my own program to kind of get more retail supporters. What are the various things it will do? It will help you to tick off advocacy, because you're going to reach out to more people, right, and tell them about what you do. It is going to help tick off, saying that possibly you will get, like, all of this study that Ambika shared, that's going to be a very powerful tool for you to say why you're saying that this can work. So how many of your old donors you're going to activate, how many of the new donors you would get, how you would engage your team. So all of these things will be music to the ears of your supporter when you say that this part of their funding you would like towards, to go towards matching. And so effectively they are supporting you. And let it not be something that comes up later on, but be very proactive in your grant proposal itself, saying that I want to embed matching into this towards my future sustainability, so that next year, so if you're giving me 1, I'm going to aim and do 1.25. And don't worry about kind of setting that target to raise, because these are your strong core supporters. They will appreciate the fact that you have a plan. And if instead of raising 25, you raise 15, I don't think they're going to really bother about it, because you would have a ton of learning from that experience, which is far more than that 25 lakhs that you might have set out. And you might have some unexpected wins, like, Simranpreet told us the first year they had not expected this to happen, and how it kind of had a upsurge. And now that this has become a part of their whole entire long-term plan. So also start quoting some of these other non-profit examples. Sanjay Sikya is one of them. There are a couple of others, and some of you in this group itself have success stories. So try to ride on that, saying, why they should support. The other would be to identify which are the platforms that are annually running matching. So whether it's happening during Dan Utsav or during the tax saving challenge, etc., and try to make sure that you have some time around that, your bandwidth is there to do this. The third I would say is, again, taking on, like, if you have a strong mapping of your donors, if you have all of this happening, maybe through the matching campaign, you're able to allocate some resources to strengthen your own retail fundraising, all the information you need, all the pitch material that you need to make, the communication material that you need to make. I would put a little caveat here that when those matching campaigns through the platforms are happening, they give you various templates, right? And I heard Simranpreet say something about, some donors saying, all this is very polished communication, show us the raw stories. So there is also a bit of fatigue when you get the same template, because you get it from more than 3-4 organizations. So try to use this as an opportunity to, so when you are telling your, Ambika, going back to your question, how are you going to engage your existing stakeholders? Go back to your volunteers, go back to your existing institutional funders, to the corporates, saying that, from our existing campaign, these are possibilities of improving engagement. So a corporate would be very happy that this becomes like a part of it is employee volunteering, a part of it is employee engagement, right? So I'm kind of saying many things at one go, but if you systematically write this down and show them how it kind of helps them achieve some of their other objectives. So along with your core, relationship with them, whether it's grant making or payroll giving, or it's a volunteering program, you would be able to kind of say that this is how you could effectively help us, also help us in the matching program. And we are actually going to be able to do much more or get greater leverage out of your existing support. I don't know if that kind of answers the question, and if I haven't, then I'm happy to take questions later.
It does. And I think a lot of it, with respect to how do you structure this upfront, I think that's kind of very important. From our study, something that we also realized, and which a lot of nonprofits also said, was that they don't have big teams. So they don't have a, Marcom team, so to say, and they don't have people writing communication material and all of that. I think that sort of becomes a hindrance for them to participate in such programs, because a lot of the smaller organizations say, instead of spending so much of my effort in putting together a retail campaign, should I just actually actively just go to donors and ask for funds instead? I'd like to hear from both of you on this. I know that Simranpreet's team would also not be that large. But how do you then, if you have a 5-member team or a 6-member team only, how do you leverage each person on the team to be able to run this campaign? And I do know a lot of platforms also support. So you said that there is a template, but can you then rework on that template and add in your own aspects to it? Or can you, put down just one line or just one short video around what you actually do in very simple terms? Is that much enough, or do donors actually look for more, or how can you make your campaigns more attractive?
So yeah, so I think on this point of small team, right? In fact, we forget small team. We don't have anybody at Sanji Sikhya who is doing full-time fundraising. There's nobody, right? And of course, much of my time goes into that, and but that's also not the entire time, right? So so I think the role of, yes, the person looking after communications, right, I think is super critical here. And because much of it is about how's the story going out, and if we are creating on these giving platforms, what information will go there, and because it's a campaign, right? So every day something needs to go. How will that be? And what different, if there are different stakeholders we work with, okay, children, teachers, and existing donors, how can people hear different voices? And how do you capture those different voices about the work that you do? So I think because the whole matching campaign is time bound, right? It is for a certain time period. So I think even if it's the team is not there, I think just getting 3-4 people from the existing, just for say these 1 or 2 weeks, I think at least that's how we have been managing it. And because the results are showing, right? So it's also encourages people that, this is something worth putting time in and investing in. So yeah, is that what you were asking?
Yeah. Any best practices, from your learnings of the last 2 years that you think have worked very well, or something that you've tried and hasn't worked, and you think, somebody could learn from that?
Yeah, I think the other thing on the team bit, right? It's now like I can say like there are what we did after the first thing that happened, right? There are these regional WhatsApp groups. Okay, there's this, of course, in India, Sanji Sikhi, Chandigarh, Ludhiana, Patiala, Jalandhar, and all of that, and then globally, Sanji Sikhi, Singapore, US, Canada, like all these people who contributed, we just mapped them to respective regions. Because see, everybody likes to be a part of a community, right? And not just that they're contributing Sanjika and hence getting that, but also they're getting to meet other interesting people. I think for them also it's a win. Okay, now we collectively support Sanjika, right? So it's a thing of making it a thing of pride. And then they meet somebody. Okay, how can you not support this organization, right? It's working in Punjab and they're doing this and all of that. So. So to this question of team, I think looking at many more people who can be team members here, right? And now people who were first time donors in the first year and then became volunteers. And now if I, now the ask only from them only increases, right? And now the conversation with them is no longer, okay, you need to give this much. I'm like, that's your annual commitment, right? I'm like, you need to get 10 more people and how many you have got, right? So that's the then conversation with them. But again, I think just being very shameless about it, right? I think it's yeah, I think and being okay with no's. I think maybe that's would be, and of course many say कि time नहीं है, अपना कर दें वही बहुत है. That is also there, of course, and many say that. But I think we should not increase our asks ourselves, right? That people say no to certain asks. Yeah, so I think that's how the team has, in some sense, I would say, expanded. And another thing like this time, so just trying to see the dates, right? The conversation around dates. So 14th November was a Children's Day, right? So then again, another date to at least, send out some, that this is coming. And Children's Day is a good day to talk about it. Everybody knows about it and stuff. And what we also did, and again, I think it's an experiment, we're seeing whether it will work or not. If you want to participate and contribute and play an active role in this campaign, join this WhatsApp group. Okay. So this was linked to that, and I think that mail went out to some 5,000-6,000 people, and there are some 30 people who joined that WhatsApp group, right? And out of those 30 people, I think 25 are completely like new, like we don't know who those people are, right? And then of course a series of introductions started in that group, and then people got to know and all of that, and then hopefully some of them will then become more involved, some of them will not, and that is part of it. But I think just earlier we used to give a Google form, and then we were only so lazy looking at those Google forms, reaching out to those people. Just, how do we just directly give that WhatsApp group link, and then the people add, and then some of them will be active, some of them will not be. So I think just finding these different ways of increasing bandwidth. So yeah.
Yeah. Ambika, if I could add to that, because so not having enough people or a team, and that's and not being able to communicate well is a big reason for many NGOs, and the learning is from people like Simranpreet and the other success stories that we've come across. So the good news is that just for learning matching or using matching as a good fundraising lever, you really don't have to do too many things that will not help your organization otherwise with retail fundraising. Meaning whatever investment you will put in strengthening your communication or regular retail fundraising is going to help you, you're going through matching, you're going to get more out of that. So there will be at least, say, one person in every organization that's attending today's meeting. Either you have a separate person, a part-time person, or you yourself, who should work on a very strong communication campaign and calendar, all your communication collateral, right? That's a work in progress. So that I believe everybody would be doing. What would help is there are also around the year several opportunities that open up where you will come across people who might be excited about building this. So for example, we ran a series of workshops from October, like beginning of October to end of October, where we had Kavita Matthew, who was earlier with Global Giving, literally doing twice a week workshops on network mapping, on getting your ask right, on identifying, on even just building your donor list, on identifying who is a donor, who is a fundraiser, who is a potential champion, all of this. So the learning this can happen, around the year for that, at least one person in your organization. And as they're learning, they're building this entire toolkit for the organization, right? So like, again, going back to Simranpreet Singh saying that they work on it for months, but on specific matching campaigns, what I see and what I hear is you need to devote about 2 months prior to the campaign to get everything in place. And the campaign itself, like he said, they started with 1 day, 4 days, became a week, and now 12 days. You can sustain this not for more than 4 weeks. So don't plan to run a campaign for more than 4 weeks, because again, you heard him saying that somebody has to be really there communicating with everyone. You need to keep feeding those volunteers, those champions who are reaching out to the another 10 people. There will be not just queries about your story, but there will be technical issues that will come up, regardless of which one platform or multiple platforms, that is the online giving platforms that you use, right? Also, when you start becoming proficient with this, your matching will come from your institutional donors with a lot of combination saying, I want to match to a maximum of 1,000 per donor, or I want to only match for, the first time donors. So you will work with platforms, and platforms are now very sophisticated. They will be able to program all this. At least with Milap, I know that they can do all of this. So those technicalities, those technical questions about not able to give, then there'll be questions on, ability to give tax returns. Why do you need additional information? All of those nuts and bolts issues also have to be addressed. So don't keep your campaign on for more than 4 weeks at the most. You definitely need 2 months of very strong preparation involving other people in the team, maybe for 2 weeks. But a core team is working for at least 2 months, and build this into your annual calendar very, very well in advance, right? Like answering to the previous question, I said, if you're going to engage your institutional donor and start building that matching pool. So this is not like there is an opportunity, some platform announced a matching challenge, let's jump into it. That you can do with time once you become more proficient with this and you have most of your tools ready. The first time it's going to be really a lot of preparation, and there's a lot of material and tools available. Devina, I can share whatever we have developed and what we've come across, and a lot of self-study and use can be done. And there are other, pro bono, like volunteers, say on platforms like Shezuba, CSRN, these are available to build your kind of communication campaign kit, etc. At least the core of it, which then can be taken out and utilized depending on your specific campaign needs. So some of these things, if you can carve these out as volunteering opportunities and engage with, when you get volunteering chances to connect with volunteers. So when, people ask you what else I can do, you have these 3-4 things, your inventory of, where you need help. But at least you yourself realizing that what are the things you need to put in place. That is something this core communication person in your organization, either it's a volunteer or you yourself, will have to kind of build that. And with that, I think you will definitely be able to do it. It's not definitely rocket science, but planning and very strong execution, I think, is what is needed.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Pushpa. I'll just open it up. If anybody has any questions, you can either ask or put it in the chat box. We did get a few questions around strategies to keep in mind, which I think Pushpa's answered in great detail. And there was one question on what about donor information when using these quick methods of giving. Just wanted to understand if, how do you manage database from Pratima? Simranpreet, would you like to take that?
Yeah. So Pratima, honestly, I think we're still learning how best to do it. And somebody recently suggested us, why don't we use Substack? It can help you solve, because what we have been doing is making the mailer on the MailChimp, managing the database on spreadsheet, and just trying to and also asking all our team members downloading the contacts from Gmail, add it to the database. So it's a very how big is the database? There are, I think right now around 6,000 to 7,000 people. So still we have been able to manage because through spreadsheets, because it's still not very Indian in lakhs. But yeah, I think I felt we have not been able to do it well because things like doing targeted communication, right? We're not able to do that effectively. Anything that goes out to everybody. So I think so that's why I said it's not the best way yet. So yeah, but that's how it is happening right now. And I think we'll explore things like Substack and see if they are able to help solve all of this.
Yeah, people can explore CRM solutions. A bunch of organizations are using Salesforce, and Salesforce also has a donation program for nonprofits, except that some of these will require someone to kind of customize and set it up for you. Of course, you have CVCRM, which is open source, not very user friendly, but you can still kind of set up your donor databases there. But what I find in my experience is people are not even maintaining a proper spreadsheet. What Simranpreet was saying, that in the least is very, very important. And whether you're using, and definitely a mail manager, whether it's MailChimp or, Benchmark, any of them, they all have free solutions up to a certain number of, mails every month. But if you're crossing that, then it does you'll have to go for paid solutions. But you will definitely need to use there are again very cheap software available to kind of make sure that, you're not, that you have proper, that you have vetted your email IDs. Don't fall prey to doing random purchase of databases and making random mailings, etc. You will get blocked out. Platforms are very sophisticated in doing these kinds of mailing campaigns, but as individual NGOs, be very mindful that you have permission of people and your mails are appropriately worded. Again, the good news is lots of tutorials are available on YouTube for you to look up these, and up to 3,000 mails a month, it's not so bad. Even Google allows you with your Gmail, to do up to 500 mails a day, and you can do a simple mail merge is, I think everyone should learn, which in your Microsoft Word, it's easy. Again, Google, with your Google Documents, you can do much of that. But at least systematically maintain your data. When you get, bounced mails, etc., keep your IDs refreshed. Reach out to donors and make sure that, they have added you into their, all the basics, nothing unique to matching. Yes. If the question was also about donor privacy and all of that, yes, please make sure that donor contact and those kinds of details you have within the organization, a non-disclosure agreement signed by concerned team members. Make sure that donor privacy is never compromised. Don't make ever the mistake of CCing a lot of people. All those basic issues around privacy and safety of donor data. All that goes without saying.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Simranpreet and Pushpa. If I could just summarize a few key things that I picked up, I think one, of course, was communication, which is key. When you when you create campaigns, when you run the campaigns, when you are continuously communicating with the donors on how the campaign is doing as well. I think the storytelling aspect, I found it extremely interesting, wherein, you ensure that everybody in the team is sort of playing a role. Also understanding how you can engage with these donors beyond just the giving aspect of it, where you can make them volunteers, they can sort of be your champions for change, they can actually be a lot more engaged with you. I think those were some of the things that I have picked up. Devana, I'll turn it back to you if you have any points to summarize, and thank you so much to everybody for attending.
I have a list of, like, I was making
Hundreds of
copious
wisdom.
notes. But yes, I think this
Yes,
was such
Pavni.
a...
Yeah, sorry, I think
Right.
Pavni has a question.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Of course, go ahead, Pavni.
Yeah, so thank you. And I would like to, I don't put this as a question, but I would like to present a scenario. So I am new to fundraising and everything, but I am working in the NGO sector and the education space. So I came here behalf of the AP and Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana point of view. So I would like to present a case, and the most of the conversation I may not relevant, and I may not find the understanding because the terminologies are, I'm new to the fundraising strategies and everything. So the one thing I would like to present in this scenario, because the Ambika and Pushpa, some of the points, and Simranpreet highlighted that there are a lot of things we need to be connected each other to work in the NGO space with respect to the education and skilling, so and other elements as well. But recently, so I would like to present here to, maybe you can give some suggestions, go ahead. So I am working as a program officer in the organization called Quest Alliance. So where AP and Telangana, as you mentioned earlier, Ambika, so there is a Marcom team, there is a fundraising and business development team in my organization too. So, but the scenario in my states are that we need to sustain the project. If there is a donor there or not, we need to find the potential people to take forward the work we are doing in the ecosystem. So where we have sent a proposal to number of things with the help of my business development and Marcom team only. But no one is interested into work in the AP and Telangana. So the work we are doing. So we couldn't find, because we have read the RFP, that what have they put on the portals, maybe DevNet Jobs and somewhere, LinkedIn, wherever. So we have read the request proposals, and what are we are doing right now, we are stretching that length only, but they are wanting more. So how we can find that matching then? Is there is a contraction with both sides, but they have requested. So how we can able to convince, and how we can get that proposal to make happen? So because we have shown our work and we have presented, we have, hopefully we will get that, we will definitely sustain some of the work we are doing, but unfortunately we haven't received that. So this is not the only one case. So what are the proposals we have sent since 6 months to 1 year down the line for the AP and Telangana? We haven't received one, not at all. So where we are lacking, we are not able to understand, maybe proposal writing, making proposals, or where. So how we can make this as a matching? So we can take some other experienced help, or what are the scenario I am unable to. Yeah, so I mean, how far this is relevant for this webinar forum, but as an experienced here, to would like to share any insights you have.
Would anybody want to take that, Ambika?
No, I think Jolly's kind of answered it. I think the matching is usually more to do with corporates or family foundations, or the platforms that are running it. I'm not sure if any government, we haven't come across any government campaigns running matching. So I think that's, the public sector is not really warmed up to it yet. But it could be something you could consider in collaboration with a foundation, or any corporate that is working in the same geography, maybe. But as a complete government entity, I don't think CSR and corporate, yes.
Yeah, my 2 bits here, Pavni, is that you said you're new to this sector. It would be good for you to attend a few more sessions, recorded sessions, etc., to kind of get to know. We have a specific session on CSR that we had done. I'm again happy to share that link. But matching, typically you would approach someone who is already an existing supporter of your organization, right? And because matching is a kind of an endorsement of the work that you already do, and it's an invitation from that foundation or that donor to say that to the rest of the world, saying that we are backing, if we encourage you to support them, and if you give 100 rupees, we are happy to add 10 more to that. So typically someone who will match as a non-profit, if you go around to looking for a matching pool from somebody, you would actually go to your existing donor. So first of all, Pavni, I would suggest, manage to get some funding from some CSR or whoever. Go back to, rather than looking at them for matching in the beginning, I would say within your organization, go to your existing funders and ask them, to support you with, tell them more about matching, etc. And not everybody can immediately plug and play and start, right? Then the other thing would be to participate in a matching campaign by one of the platforms, and meanwhile build your retail database and start looking at those, activating some of your old donors, etc. So not everyone should, first of all, if you can go to your existing people, request them to provide you matching, it's great. But if not, then participate in an existing matching fundraising program. But I think it would not really, you would not meet with success if you were to go to a new donor and say, give me matching.
Great, Pavni, I hope that helps. Okay, great. I think on that note, I know we're just wee bit over time, but I think it was time very, very well spent. Like I said, I've made copious notes, and I think so have most of the folks who've attended this session today. Thank you so much, Ambika, Pushpa, Simranpreet. I think this was very, very enriching. I am going to share your email IDs with all our participants. I hope that's okay, because I'm sure they'll really benefit from any conversation, even beyond this webinar today, and take back a lot of further wisdom. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Have a great day, and yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.